Up to this one. Mandy.
Right, good morning, everyone. I call to order the June 24th meeting of the Madison County Board of Commissioners. My name is Chris Pauls. Everybody please introduce themselves.
Tony Siddigas.
Brendan Shea.
Rob Sawyer. David Bell. Nick Adams, prosecutor.
Rhonda Maynard, assistant clerk. Amy Reese, clerk.
Everybody should have received a copy of last week's meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes, especially for readings.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea,
Yes.
Mr. Sneakus.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes. Mr. Atkins? Floor is yours, sir.
Only one item I wanted to address with you, unless you have something for me, but that item is the annexation hearing you had last week. I was asked a couple of questions just to kind of run through what the next 30 days looks like and case law says, statute say, and what authority you have. So I jotted down some notes to roll through. Obviously, you have the 30 days to make your decision. That would be by my count, July 17th, again, we the 15th. So that's the deadline you're looking at. The statute says that after passing a resolution, either granting or denying, you certify that decision to the petitioner, the municipality, and the township. And then you wait an additional 30 days. There's a 30-day window for an appeal. And that appellate process is outlined in the statutes, chapter 709 and 2506. Under those statutes, there's an appeal right. So the necessary parties that we talked about before, those three, they all have the right to appeal any decision. Obviously, they're not in agreement here. So I guess what I would say is in looking at the consequence of granting or denying the petition, the consequence is the same because there's always that possibility of an appeal. You grant it, the township can appeal, you deny it, the municipality, the petitioner can appeal. And that legal process, like I said, it's contained within the statutes, but it's akin to a de novo review. It's not because the process is in the statute, but essentially what that means is the common pleas court would review everything from the beginning. It's anew, reviewed anew. And what that means is they would go through the transcripts and the exhibits that were submitted for your hearing and compare that to your resolution to make sure that your decision is supported by the facts in the record. Now, it's called de novo plus, and so it's not quite that's traditional review because the statute does allow in limited circumstances new evidence to be presented at the common pleas level, but it's very limited, and it's typically situations where there was some kind of mistake at the hearing. If you didn't follow the statute, for instance, had you not put people under oath and they testified, well, then the court could decide, we're going to bring those witnesses back in, put them under oath, and allow the parties to do a direct examination and cross-examination. My review, and then obviously we did this intentionally prior to the hearing, but you follow the statute. I don't think it's likely at all there would be new evidence presented at an appeal or on the appeal level. There would be an opportunity for the parties to present argument, just oral argument to the court, and that would include there would be the opportunity for me to do that on behalf to just support and defend the decision you made, plus the other necessary parties. So the resolution, when I say it's got to be supported by the fact, it needs to be specific. I mean, this witness said X, and we make this finding based on this statement, that kind of thing. So one of the things I wanted to recommend to you, we had Amy Fiver come in and, record and transcribe the hearing, but I would actually order the transcript. I would do it now, so you can get it in time to be able to review that transcript, so that you know the statements you're making in the resolution are very specific and accurate to what was stated. You don't want to get in a position where you're paraphrasing. So obviously, we looked at the factors before under 709.033, but the A4 factor and the A5 factor are the key factors here that you're really going to be focusing on. I think all the others they meet, right? I mean, it's just the standard stuff. They pass the resolution, the information pertaining to the petition is accurate. But the A4 is the size of the area to be annexed in the territory. Obviously, this isn't an overly large territory. We look at some of the others in case law, but there are 3 sub-factors to consider, and one of those includes the ability to provide these services. And services, I think it's going to be where you're really going to be focusing in on for your decision. And then the A5 as well is just kind of that balancing act of weighing the benefit to the detriment. And that will also, I think, heavily focus in on services, other things as well, but services is broad. It's not just utilities, right? It's also the fire, police, EMS services. This is, I don't want to say unique, but you have a situation where you have a single owner, 100% ownership petitioner. So the standard or regular annexation process that they've gone through allows for it to move forward if there's a majority of the property owners in agreement. This is 100% of the property owners. So the reason I bring that up is because the case law says typically when you have just a majority, you kind of do that balancing, act for services, and you weigh which services do we think would be better. You kind of put them side by side and do that analysis. But that's not the case when you have a single petitioner, because the courts say you should give deference to the property owners, and 100% of the property owners want to move forward with annexation. You should allow them to do so as long as the services to be provided in that area are adequate. So instead of comparing existing services to potential new services, you're just looking at whether the new services would be adequate to service that territory. And I have thoughts about that. I have thoughts about some other things, but one of the questions I wanted to ask you is how you intend on approaching preparing the resolution, making a decision, and working through the testimony and applying those factors. Obviously, you have to be cognizant of Open Meetings Act. My thought would be maybe appoint a point person to take that on, and you can discuss it in an open meeting, and I can give you my thoughts in email, and that would be covered by attorney-client privilege. You just can't get engaged in discussion yourself off the record. So just encourage you to think about how you want to deal with that, whether you want to have open discussion and meeting, whether you want to appoint a single person, that could be one of you, it could be Rob or someone else. And then I guess, is there anything you're looking for me in addition to what I've given? I'd also be interested to hear your thoughts about the testimony that we heard, and if there's anything that stood out to you and you would like to focus in on and maybe think about as to whether or not that would be an appropriate factor to include in the resolution. I can help anybody, what level of involvement you want me to be there.
That's kind of an unrelated question. So if there was something that wasn't discussed at length in the hearing, are we now able to bring that up as a factor in approving or denying the petition? Maybe an issue that wasn't fully fleshed out that maybe we thought of.
Wasn't fully fleshed out,
Or
yes, but
afterward.
never mentioned at all, probably not. Although I would say that you were given a lot of information that when you start going through some of those exhibits and the information and where the testimony would logically lead, if a statement was made that would lead you to have a thought, yeah, I think there's some room there to bring in things that might not have been discussed at length I'll give you an example. There was one statement that was made that I think is the most important statement. It was one line. And I want to discuss that with you at some point, but, as long as there is nothing, as long as there's not, a situation where there's nothing in the record to support or bring up that topic, I think you're okay. In terms of what the appeal looks like, let's say it goes up on appeal and your decision was found not to be supported by the record, then that happens. The court, the common pleas court has pretty wide discretion as to how they can handle that. But you're looking at a situation where either, because of the way the court views it, either they change your decision, they remand for further proceedings, they remand with orders to change it or reconsider. This isn't gonna be a situation where it's a traditional lawsuit looking for damages, right? It's all based on your decision, whether your decision is supported by the record and stand. And in terms of the proceedings themselves, like I said, it's not a full civil trial. It's just a review of the record from the hearing and your resolution to see if it's supported. So unless you were to do something that would violate due process rights of an entity or somehow act maliciously, you're not looking at liability and you're looking at minimal legal expenses for the review, or if any.
How long do you think that process would take?
It would be expedited. Obviously, there's a full 30-day period after the decision. So we got the first, 2 months, 60 days. After that, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months, something like that. Because obviously there's got to be the full record of the proceedings has to be prepared and sent up to common pleas. Everybody has to be given notice of when the hearing will be set. You would set that, and then after the hearing, there would be time for the court to review all the arguments and transcripts and exhibits and then make a decision and draft the decision. 2-3 months later.
So either way, when we decide, and we need to have something, written at length supporting that decision.
Yes, this isn't like just a verbal vote. It needs to be very meticulously documented.
So given the possibility of appeal and the possibility or the likelihood, you said you would be able to represent us in that case if it was appealed, correct?
Yeah.
It seems like it would make sense for you to be intimately involved in drafting that resolution. Is that what you're suggesting you would do or is possible?
We joke in the office that when you're a trial lawyer, you can't help but be competitive. I've already started jotting down thoughts.
Good.
So, yeah, I'm willing to do that. You want me to do that? I'd be very happy to do that. That's why I think that, I want someone to be able to discuss, from a representative from your board or Rob, because I don't want to get in a position where what I draft is my opinion, right? That's what I'm trying to do. It's your decision, your opinion, and, just putting words to it.
I wonder if, sharing your initial thoughts, like you said, maybe in email format, and then if we have a discussion the next week to see, I don't know how to approach this in terms of, do we just talk about this in open session? Obviously, we can't do it.
Yeah, I would recommend holding off for now, until you have, more information or base an opinion on. I've got some, legal research I want to share with you. I'll share that right away by email. And then, I would encourage you to order that transcript right away.
Let's do that.
See that. I mean, it was a 2-hour hearing. I know that we probably all have a pretty good sense of what was said, but just not exactly. I'm sure there's things that.
There's something in my mind right now that I can't remember. So it would be good to see it. All right. Well, I personally think Mr. Wallace and you should work together. As you're both in the legal lingo, or we're not.
Okay.
Or I was gonna call you and talk to you about it.
Same thing.
Yeah, and then we can do that too. I mean, I can talk to you individually and share thoughts and that's permissible. We just can't engage in a,
Right.
in a roundtable discussion.
Yep, get it, got it.
That would be glad to talk to you at some point.
Yeah, and I had a chance to research some of the things that we talked about yesterday as well, so. Have some input
Very good.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, and the one thing I would remind you is that, you know, one of the exhibits submitted by the city of Dublin included very comprehensive maps. And you can use those to. You can review the maps and there might be information contained within the maps that might not have been explicitly stated on the record, but it's there in the exhibit and would be useful. In making your findings.
Do we need to request a transcript or can you do it?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay.
Amy can reach out. I don't know how quickly, I don't work with Tammy as often as I do as Lower Thornsbury, but my experience is that if you order a transcript, you're looking at about 10 days for this kind of transcript. If it's quicker than that, you'd have to pay like an expedited price.
We could also watch it on, we recorded it, so.
To reach out.
Very good.
Any other thoughts, questions? Good?
Thank you.
Super good, Brendan. Yep, thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Brian? Morning, how are you, sir?
Brendan. Got plenty to think about this morning. I'll just, one project I'll update you on, and especially since we have a Pleasant Township trustee here. As you recall, we got repaved Jump Road last year. We got that agreement, and they'll be reimbursing the county to take that on, and we are currently in contract on it. Weather has delayed that work, but it is tentatively scheduled for mid to late July. Get that completed. And hopefully that'll kind of get in between farming seasons as well. So we'll pass that along to. Outside of that, crews are taking advantage of the weather. Summer's here. Any questions for me? I'm happy.
I don't have any, gentlemen.
I'm good.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. David?
Sure, 4 items. One, Deer Creek Township is gonna be the last township that we're gonna be meeting with for their interaction with us. Another township's July 7th, their meeting, regular scheduled meeting, to go over the comp plan updates. So that's first item. Second, there is some interest brewing at 4229, land across the street from the industrial building there, potentially manufacturer. Not sure what pattern, how fast. I know we have a economic development incentive policy that has at least been not formally sent to you. I'm gonna re-engage the township, see if we can start more discussions on that. My recommendation would be, even if this project moves, again, I don't know how quickly it moves, where it moves, but if it moves quicker than when we're ready, my recommendation would be to still follow policy as it would be, just to make sure we're consistent moving forward with how we find sense in that area. So I'll keep you guys in the loop as that moves forward. There are, third item, there are 2 interested parties in the Honeywell building. If you recall, there was a Italian manufacturer that purchased it back in March, walked away about a week later, bought about 16,875,000. So there's 2 groups that are, I had 2 meetings literally yesterday, back to back, with 2 groups interested. So we'll see. I think one group wants to make a decision by late July or early August. Another group is as urgent, but those are the 2 that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's more out there. The last thing, not the campers here, not steal his thunder. There is, last week I talked to the mayor of Mount Sterling. There's rumored to be some more housing being looked at down there, and that involves the one petition annex that came to Amy today. So don't much. The village just learned about it last week. the annexation request. So again, I don't know, we don't have any plans for the house or anything like that, but that's just kind of what is believed to be happening at this point. Just a reminder, as you guys are aware, that it's the land or the petition is not the village. So.
And the village hasn't submitted a letter yet saying that they would be able to provide.
Correct.
Services.
Correct.
So they still have the opportunity to do that.
Yep.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, you know, like maybe next trustee meeting. Talk about annexations with the trustees because, you know, I mean, if I wasn't doing this, yeah, cause I didn't know anything about anything of this unless you get into it. And there's pressures, there's gonna be pressures to annex.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a good, even if we had something, you know, wrote down to pass or whatever, I think that might help.
Yeah.
I believe this is a type two, part two, annexation, so. Of 30, what was it, 29 acres, something like that, and so the village now it's 30.
They'd want to abandon the type 1 and go to a type 2.
What do you mean by ban? They'd have to start the process over.
So what we were presenting to Dublin is a type 1.
It's a regular.
Right.
So can they say, heck with the regular,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that-
squeeze in and do a type 2?
I've had that question in my mind as well, and I'm not.
And I don't think so.
Yeah, not positive, but I focus more on these other issues right now, but I'm gonna get into that because. I'm guessing no, because the concept of res judicata, which is the legal concept that once a decision's been made, you can't go back and try to change the decision, applies to court proceedings. This is not, this is like a quasi court proceeding. Now, the main question though that I'm uncertain of is, you know, so let's say there is the ability to do that. If you make a decision, does that change if it's appealed and then the common pleas court makes a decision? Understand what I'm saying? Because then I think raise your okay.
Yeah, there's some intricacies with fire service coming out of Washington Township. And some other things that I believe dictates the reasoning to go through the regular annexation process.
Yeah, they were very.
As far as qualified
Yeah.
entities go.
Yeah, there's a difference between the type 1 and type 2. You remain with the same services that are being provided, whereas if it's a standard annexation, they would be able to utilize Washington, despite the fact it's outside of that township. Yeah.
So the annexation before us today, so this is accepting the annexation. Let's see, accepting, and then it has 30 days and then we would
Yeah,
vote.
you're
on
starting
it.
the clock.
Does the village have any opportunity to weigh in? I seem to recall with West Jeff, they were,
Yeah, during that time period.
It doesn't, and no, that's my experience either, it doesn't happen.
it doesn't have, it. What if they said we don't have the ability to provide services to the area?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so if they say that, then that's a reason to deny it. Okay,
Because that's a requirement, say this one
Yeah.
required.
yeah, okay.
They would actually send a letter saying that they can provide services to these 29 acres.
Okay, so they have to weigh in when
They will,
They have
yeah.
to say we can.
Absolutely, and then that's what traditionally with West Jeff. Primarily, I mean, London's annexed too, but with West Jeff, they usually send a service letter almost right away with the petition, so.
He was referring to whether or not they desire for it to go forward.
Correct.
That's a separate condition.
Correct. So.
Very good. Bill?
Yes.
What are the order?
I do. Been working, quite arduously with, Mid-Ohio and some of the concerns there about solvency of their proposed, regional sanitary sewer plant, continuing to work with them on a few other issues there and concerns that has become quite time consuming. Also working with the airport board on the insurance issues, construction issues, workmanship, so forth, so on, repairs from the tornado. there. I've become basically a facilitator between all those entities. JCAR, Serve Pro, the airport board, of course, the insurance adjuster, so forth, so on. So we are working things out. You know, Wayne Francis has been in here a couple of times. He's in the loop as well. So we're working through that stuff. It's taking some time, and we're running into some issues. For example, the doors on hangar 5, I believe, like, of course, it's gonna cover the doors, but they won't cover the labor to have it hung because the hangar was never designed to put those doors on it. So if the doors are gonna go back, then an engineer needs to re-engineer it, and the supports need to go up, so forth, so on, for the doors to be put back on. So that's just an example of some of the things that we're working through. As far as the airport board goes, I'm happy to announce that, we did receive $497,088, from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And that'll go to, the taxi lane project. And so that's a pretty big win, for a local airport. Very good. So, and then the last thing I have on my list, other than the gentleman that's will come in, is coming in later today. I've been through, several talks with, representatives from Fresenius on their lease, which is set to renew. So I've been negotiating with them. I've basically declined everything that they've proposed, up until their last kind of Hail Mary shot, which is, we have a 3% escalator built into that lease. So they're asking for their lease cost to remain the same next year as it is this year, forego that 3% escalator, but then that 3% escalator would kick in the subsequent year. So I think we could say no, and they would be okay with it, but I think this is their last ask. Like I said, I've denied everything so far without any pushback.
So you're dealing with their lawyers again, you're not dealing with them.
Yeah, correct.
Same.
They have a representative, but I would say this company is far easier to work with than the previous company. They're not asking for us to cover their attorney fees or representative fees or anything else. They basically asked for some repairs to the building, which we already have scheduled, repairs to sidewalks, that sort of thing, which are already in the works right now. They asked for decrease in rent, they asked for this, they asked for that, which I said no. So that's where we're at now. I said, well, they asked that I bring this to you, just make sure you are okay or not okay with it, since I said no to everything else. So we can renew that lease, forego the escalator for 1 year, or say no, that 3% is still on track, so. To you guys, which I have those numbers.
Yeah, what's the number?
So, your annual base rent, in 27 would be $83,346. So your next, 28 to 29 would be $85,846.38. So they're just asking for.
For $2,000, they're arguing.
Yeah, basically, that's what I thought. We could move it from, $14.37 a square foot. The next escalator would go to $14.80, in year 27, so.
Here's my thoughts on this. Definitely need the service here. Definitely need the service. Secondly, I think foregoing a couple grand and keeping them here and keeping that building built out, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You know, they're good clients, they pay, they don't bother very much.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, I think retaining them as a tenant is definitely,
So that's my thing.
worthwhile. I think it would be extremely difficult for them to find, comparable office space. I think it'd be extremely difficult for them to move.
But just because
All
of
of
the
that
service,
equipment,
yeah, but just because of the service they supply to this community, I think it's important that they stake it.
and like I said, I thought maybe this is one of them we throw on Moses, but I wanted to come to you before I finally said. Gave them a thumbs up or a thumbs down and sign that lease, so it would be, up till, 2032.
I'm fine with that as well.
Yeah.
I got my issue.
Sounds good, that's all I have for you, John.
Let's do it. Mid-Ohio question. You used the word solvency. Is
Yes,
there something, you're working on solvency issues? Is there something that,
yeah, you just, not specific, it's just, when I handed off sewer and water responsibilities and we were looking at the sanitary sewer regional plant at 70 and 42, we were right around 68, $70 million. That quickly jumped to $110 million. And then you have the infrastructure there, between 70 and 42 and Plant City. My concern is, has anybody done any type of financial analysis on this? What is the risk analysis? Show what are options A, B, and C. I want to make sure that they're able to pay the debt service on that project. And thus far, I'm not getting a clear picture of that. So
do we have any indication that they're not moving forward with that?
there's no indication that that is not the case. I mean, it's full speed ahead as far as I know. I want to make sure, that maybe I'm sticking my nose where it doesn't belong, but I just want to say, okay, if these projected numbers don't come to fruition, what is your fallback plan? You know, if,
Just make sure they have the long-term planning there. Like,
yeah,
they've done that analysis, they've done the work,
yes,
and that someone is looking out for the long term. And that's the bigger concern.
yeah. So as far as economic development goes and the county goes, I don't think we want to be in a position where we have the highest rates in the state of Ohio because contingency plans weren't there, a gap analysis wasn't done, you know, that sort of thing. Alternatives weren't looked at. I mean, because ultimately that impacts the county, economic development with the county, you know, as far as attracting new businesses and homes and so forth, so on. You know, because in the end, if you don't have any other resources, it's gonna be a consumer-based issue. You're gonna have to raise those rates to cover your debt service. And I just would feel more comfortable if somebody could say, now here is the, here's the game plan and here's contingencies and so forth, so on. I just haven't seen that yet, so.
Yeah, they may have done the work, we just want to see the work.
Yeah, because if somebody can prove me wrong, hey, that's great. But here it is, here's everything. As stakeholders, in the project, I think it's good to have the board well informed on such an impactful project.
Grab coffee real quick.
Yeah, no bells or fires or anything are going off right now. I just, you know, this is a project that's far reaching, wasted. But fair statement.
September, there moves. If that doesn't happen, then we have a problem. Everything is explaining.
And the 208 plan is supposed to be approved in July.
It's supposed to be, yeah. Yeah, and there, you know, the updates that their board meetings are, there's all indications are, heard from other parties too, that all indications are that's.
I just struggle with a $30 million increase. So from where we left it to where it's at. I'm like, how, where did this,
I'll say it's the same thing, right?
you know?
The board of election building wasn't good enough, so they wouldn't spend $2 million on another property to add something. That explains everything. They're building a Taj Mahal. Which is great, as long as you pay for it, but they're, yeah, I know who's gonna pay for it. People that are serviced by it, yeah.
It's hard.
Of the-
I'm gonna take you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah, so.
Done, but it's on the what's the next month.
Yeah. Yes.
And it was saying like that was on.
Well, it'll help the bottom line.
It's been.
That building is, this
Yeah, well, anyhow.
is, but now it is.
Yeah.
Well, we just having 70 years of different settings on water and the back of thing, it was paying for what and. Percent, so what was going to be thinking about, give everybody else, it's a big, huge water. The 70 year and stuff, they're going to say that's it.
Very good. Amy, if you would please.
We have a resolution approving the payment of invoices for the Madison County Auditor.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution increasing appropriations to Commissioner's professional service expense line in the amount of $100,000.
So moved.
The first and the second,
Let me say second.
oh, sorry. I jumped again. There
Second.
it is, first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving a transfer of funds from the refunds reimbursement miscellaneous revenue line to the Commissioner's other expense line, and this is to pass through for a grant.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution accepting an expedited type 2 petition for annexation of 35.362 acres from Pleasant Township to the Village of Crystal.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution to proceed with submission of a renewal levy for mental health and recovery services to the electors of Madison County, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Resolution to proceed with submission of the renewal levy for the benefit of the Madison County Senior Citizen Center to the electors of Madison County.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution increasing appropriations to the Madison County Auditor's health and dental insurance budget lines.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakers?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving budget transfers for the ditch maintenance reimbursements.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. Botts?
Yes.
A resolution approving the Department of Youth Services Grant Fund realignment for fiscal year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus? Mr. Willis?
Yes,
That's all I got.
thank you, appreciate it. Right, we're a little early for the open session and public comment period, but if there's anybody that has anything for the record, now is the time. Freaking door. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So, there's a reason why I'm certainly I understand that now, but if you put out some type of an official document or something, just for professional courtesy for villages and so forth, to maybe come up with a better communication or just a professional courtesy, like I said, to townships, what have you, on annexation, growth. I mean, there's a lot going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years, I would say, that kind of without that communication, there's just a lot of turmoil and stuff that happens relatively quickly. So I learned about the Mount Sterling annexation through social media at 10 o'clock last night, you know, and so.
I think we could probably disperse that through our office when we know about it. But I don't know that we can make the village or anybody else do it.
I'm not saying they, is there a way to just put out some type of communication, you know what I mean, like in our township meetings, we're talking about, et cetera, just to say, hey.
So, I mean, David,
Forward is a professional courtesy.
yeah, I mean, David routinely speaks with the mayor of Mount Sterling. I mean, I'm sure that you could ask the mayor, hey, if you would in the future, you know, keep Pleasant Township in mind, communicate with Pleasant Township, communicate with David, and David could relay that to the township. I mean, I think those are ways to keep lines of communication open.
Yeah, and we will do that too in the township. I mean, we have a liaison that comes to our meetings to say anything about it. So I don't know if that person is not informed or whatever, but we'll do the same thing locally. I'm
Sure.
saying that, I'm thinking in the township association, as things go, you know, with you know, the regional planning commission and board and all that type of stuff. It'd be nice if that information was just made available.
As far as the annexation goes.
Annexation or just a large development or something that's kind of like,
Yeah,
you know, so say something happens in Stokes County that, you know, we'd like to be known and maybe it could help our township, you know, I like to know what that, I say that. You know,
That's-
that's what-
as far as a annexation goes, like this annexation, we typically don't have a lot of heads up on it, but we could alter our internal process to say, hey, we've got an annexation in Pleasant Township coming up, and it lets you know that there's an annexation.
Yeah, that's all.
So you're not learning it on social media.
That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
I mean, I got paraded with phone calls, that's what I was
Yeah.
this morning, just panic, because nobody even knew what area it was, you know what I mean? So it's just.
Yeah.
So.
When did that come in?
Wednesday, oh, I exchanged emails with the mayor on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, so, I mean, and so Mount Sterling, you know, they don't get many of these, so we can work with them on that. I know other communities that ask them, I can tell you two right now that will, if we ask them to give a heads up to the township, they'll say absolutely not. One may, and then you have Mount Sterling. So we put internally, we can certainly work on adjusting for when we get.
But it might not be,
Petition.
a lot of heads up.
And I'm just asking for, you know, if you guys could turn around, when someone presents that to you, just, you know, as a courtesy, hey, can you
Forward that on to the.
please, and if they don't, then, you know, they don't have to. I'm just saying, if I have professional courtesy, it'd be nice to have that information.
Rachel Fisher's Secretary for the Association, Township Trustee Association. She wants to send it there.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we get it, we can send you a
Yeah.
copy. I think that's the easiest, if you guys are okay with that. Now, the big picture stuff is going to be the comprehensive land use plan that
Yep.
each entity has in Mount Sterling. I'm sure they have one. how old it is, I couldn't tell you, they, you may know how old their comprehensive plan is.
Oh, Mount Sterling, oh God, I don't think they, if they did sometime.
Yeah.
You know, it's only 13 or 14, but if that, I don't think I think it's been so long.
Other than that, that information is gonna come through all those various different networks, of regional command and that sort of thing,
So
so.
again, I'm not asking for, you know,
Yeah.
writing everything, I'm just, as you hear, or
A
whatever.
heads up.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not you guys, and you're just asking them to say, hey, is it professional courtesy, can you please reach out? I mean, that would be,
I think of all the communities that surround, or all the towns surrounding the village or city, I think you're probably in the best position to get a heads up at this point. So I'll talk to Andy there and just see if people are going to do that.
I mean, it won't be detrimental. but
No.
it's just that-
And I showed you the text, I mean, he doesn't know, there's no plans right now for the property or anything like that, so I think they're literally kind of just learning about it as the region.
Yeah, I mean, the social media post basically just said that, they voted for it, and then they're turning it over to you guys. You know, what I mean, for the vote, so it's kind of like, okay, so everybody is assuming there's some conversation. You know, what I mean, it seems like this is long-term planning, whatever, and then
Yeah.
it just seems sneaky, you know, what I mean?
Discussion.
Now with the type 2, it's pretty much just like landowner wants to annex, village, you take them.
Check box.
So I felt better as soon as I got there, because that's what you said, but everybody else up there is seeing it. And they still don't know where it is, you know, are they taking over 88 Harrison, people are like,
And you never wanna get a call that you don't have really any clue what's going on. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't know anything about this.
Nick's idea to forward it to Rachel and she's got all the emails of everybody. And if you don't care to look at it, that's fine, but some might. I think that's a good idea.
yeah, I think that's perfect, and I'll talk to Rachel about see what the situation is. It's just being blindsided is a little rough.
Daryl, we've touched on this before, but with the comprehensive plan update that we're going through now, there's gonna be a couple sort of regional forums, if you will, and we've talked about maybe doing one in the southern part of the county. So just throwing that out there, if you have any thoughts, if you think there's interest, Pleasant or
Yeah, we're definitely,
you are, okay.
and when David and I were talking about that too.
Yeah.
I know we're not high on the emergency, and you guys have a lot more to do in the northern part, but we definitely want to be part of that. And you know, help share everybody's opinions, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's many changes, but that doesn't mean it's still, we should start meeting down, so.
No, we should touch bases, and we are trying to reach out to some landowners and talk about it, you know, what I mean, as well, and there isn't much change, everybody still feels the same as the last comp plan, so I think it's more of just communicating, you know, the results is more
Yeah.
amazing, so. And the annexation is fine, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with what you're doing, I wasn't here to say, you know, yay or nay, I was just trying to figure out if there a way to communicate better, so.
Yeah, it's always a challenge.
Very good shit.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Daryl. Anybody else?
Yes, hopefully.
I just want to say thank you for your support, for your sending this, like.
Yes. Good, good, thank you. Thank you, Major.
Can I come up?
You sure can.
Good morning.
Morning.
Probably remember me. Okay. So once again, for the record, I'm Brett Rothus. I'm the president of Fort Fibers, and multiple other companies, but really focusing on the fiber network. And my daughter was here a couple weeks ago. And I read the meetings minutes, and I also watched the video. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware of this first and foremost. Fort Fibers' intention is not to litigate this matter, okay? The Fort Fibers is not wanting to litigate this matter. Fort Fibers wants to resolve this matter in a professional manner and move forward. The entire intention of this initially was to build a fiber network out there for Madison Fields solar farm, which the county and the constituents of this county are receiving millions of dollars every single year. And the school districts and everything else.
And I was commissioned and I was contracted to build that fiber network. During that process, we submitted permits, those were revoked. I was asked to pay enormous amounts of fees that were not there, not participating. I personally, my engineers have submitted thousands of permits around the United States. Chicago, New York, the largest cities, building stuff for Verizon Wireless. I'm very familiar with the permitting process. I'm very familiar with the legal processes of this. I know Greg Dunn very well from Nice Mill. He actually wrote an opinion for DRS during this process when we had the gentleman's agreement to DRS on the right-of-way permitting issue. Here we are today still without a permit. I'm coming to head within a couple days of either shutting the solar farm down because I'm not going to continue on this process. I have 65, 70 miles of fiber plant out there that I cannot light up. I have constituents of this county and also Union County that want fiber rural broadband. And it's not about the RFP that's out there. That's going to take years to build and to turn up, to test, to do. I have existing infrastructure in the ground today that I can offer these services. Rosedale Bible College is contracted with me. They are demanding that I have this network up and running for them by August 1st for their students. I cannot fulfill that agreement as of today. It's a process. It's a lengthy process. Let me give you a perfect example. The solar farm on Madison Fields. I have no visibility in that network. No visibility. If that network goes down, it's down. Then we got feds involved, right? Because it's a utility scale major situation. I cross my fingers every single day. I drive that 30-mile network out that's for them. And also, that they have 2 dedicated fibers on. I drive every morning to make sure we're part of the 811 system, but we've also found people that have been illegally digging. They don't have any visibility to it. I've come to the point that from an emotional and everything else, that is this really worth it to continue on? Everybody wants it, right? I mean, we're living in 2025, not dialogue based. That's what we have on our community. Everybody wants it. Everybody we pass. We built the entire southern part of Union County out. I can't fire it up because I can't get into the network and have visibility to it because I'm going to create other issues for other people. It's just the inherent nature of how the networks are built. All these people want it. Here we are today, sitting here today. No progress moving forward. We've submitted the permits as requested. We've submitted 2 permits. One to get the simple permit across from my house, across the driveway to my handhole. Then the other one is move the network out of the right of way. That's on private easement. Back into the public right of way. Both permits have been submitted. We have yet to receive one communication as of today. So as of this Friday, I'm making a decision and I'm going to notify Shell. And I don't know what's going to happen because I can't keep living this type of life of living under, what if something happens, right? I mean, it'd be like if you had internet at your house and if your internet went out, you call, your provider. And I don't know what's going on. I send someone out there and, well, let me call your neighbors up and see if their internet's down. That's not how you run a network in today's world. And that's why this network is being just strictly operated for the solar. I have built a redundant path into the solar farm. I spent $250,000 of the company's money above and beyond to make sure that the stability is there just in case. But yet I can't get a very, very simple right-of-way permit. 9 months ago, the Attorney General, Dave Yost, made it very clear. The county commissioners are the ones responsible and have to authorize for that permit to be issued. I don't know if that has been authorized yet. For the engineer to authorize, have you authorized the engineer yet to work on permits?
I believe we have.
Okay, so that process is moving forward, but I can't continue on. The amount of money, if you take simple math, 1,500 customers times $80 a month times 24 months. That's how much money I've lost so far, just in the revenue. Not entailed of additional engineering, additional costs, additional everything.
Could you tell me when you submitted your last two permits? What's that?
I have the dates if he doesn't.
I don't have the exact dates.
I had a phone conference with Mr. Roth's attorney on May 13th. We discussed the applications. Shortly thereafter, it was about 4 days afterwards, I gave them the applications that they needed to fill out. On June 11th, the applications were submitted to me, and I forwarded them on to the engineer's office, including Mr. Roth's attorneys, and just indicated that that's the process the applications. Prior to that, I spoke to Mr. Doom and inquired who they should be directed to within his office. He gave me Mr. Forrest's name, so that's who we sent them to on June 11th. On June 20th, then I heard again from Mr. Roth's attorney 9 days later, indicating they had not heard back from the engineer's office. I then followed up with the engineer's office. I haven't heard anything since.
So we're at June 20th was the last communication.
To me, so yes, the application was submitted June 11th. I would note that when I saw the applications, I saw that they were incomplete because there were a number of items that were lined out, including either obtaining a bond or insurance for the project, which is something.
Pertaining to that, I was asked, so I've submitted thousands and thousands of permits, okay? And in today's world, and as Attorney General Dave Yost wrote his opinion, there's billions of dollars of governmental money being spent today on broadband. How do we enroll broadband to people? So it's a necessity in today's world. And if you add additional costs, if you add things that become unreasonable, it's an ROI or an IRR, however businesses want to do it, and then you look at your EBITDA rate at the end of it. And when it boils down to it is that simplification when you want to do business in a county or you want to do business in a jurisdiction, you've got to make it, I'm not saying transparently blank and just write it on the back of a napkin, but you've got to make it easy. Union County, simple, right? ODOT, simple. Other county communities, simple. City of Columbus, simple, right? All these jurisdictions are huge amounts of growth, right? Because they make it easy for businesses to come in. So let me give you an example. I used to have some of my customers were Verizon Wireless Limited, Nationwide Insurance, AEP, Facebook, Amazon. What happens is when they come out into a jurisdiction, let's just say into Madison County, and they hired me to come out and I look at the infrastructure. I look at what's the electrical grid like, right? I meet with the electric company. I meet what's the sewer and water look like, right? What's the infrastructure? Then I look at what the fiber network looks like, right? Just because it's fiber doesn't mean it's fiber. What's it look like? What's it operate? What's the medium platform of it? Those are all check mark boxes to these companies when they come out and start looking at this. And what you don't want to do, and I'm a resident of Madison County as well, right? And what you don't want to do is you don't want to make it difficult for companies to do business within the county or those jurisdictions. You want to make it as easy, I'm not saying easy, but you also want to have some meat to it, right? But when you add on all these, a $10,000 bond across the road, right? It doesn't happen. I can show you 10,000 permits, that doesn't happen. I understand, we gotta protect we gotta do things right, but that's why my insurance, my COI, my certificate of, my commercial liability insurance is written and names the county, right? If I do damage, I'm responsible for fixing it. There's other avenues and discussions that should take place on those red lines. And as I stated, is I'm not gonna sign a red line agreement that's not approved by. All I'm trying to do is just, when I redline that agreement, all I'm trying to do is just make it easy, just not for me, but for other providers to come in and do business in the future. And I have back here, he's an engineer, he's got 30 some plus years of engineering. We originally were the ones that were hired by Novaka to engineer the network here, design it from the ground up. And then we did that, and then during the process, when the right-of-way permit was changed, we brought that to Mr. Jeff Ganress, attention, and also Forest Sage's attention. They said they're gonna have a meeting, they came back to us, and I said, there's major issues here, major issues. We already had, 6 months into this engineering. As of today, we have not received $1 from anybody. I understand networks. Ed understands networks. Naveed is one of the contractors that originally bid on the project. I was not allowed to bid on it because I was not a qualified bidder. Why? I have no idea. Obviously I'm not qualified. Been an opinion, right? But I just want the board to know that Four Fibers has come to, and again, I've talked to Ohio Gate, I've talked to them about buying my network. I have talked to other companies, I have friends in the industry, they want to come in from a commercial, Omni Fiber, I know Derek Zuko very well, the CEO of Omni. I wanted to build out Lake Choctaw, back then I bought all the materials for it. We did all the engineering. And then once I got the revoked permit back, I said, no, I can't do that because I'm not allowed to do it in the public right of way.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
I heard a lot of this before, because you've been here, on how qualified you are, and you probably are. But can you simplify what your ask is today, so I can understand it? What is your ask today
I need my permits
from the engineer?
and I need to be reimbursed of 2.6 million. That was caused for me to have to build on private easement,
Who would be reimbursing you that 2.6 million?
the county,
Okay.
to move it back into public right of way.
So that's why you have a lawyer.
Not for that reason. The original intention was, the right of way issue. The 2.6, I don't want to litigate this matter, okay? I've been through litigation before. It's no fun for anybody, all parties. It's no fun.
Why is the county at fault for owing you $2.6 million?
They illegally revoked my permit.
County legally revoked your permit.
Yes,
So that's the gist of your being here today, those 2, 3.
yes, and then the engineer also called ODOT, tried to get my permit revoked, and also called Union County to try to get my permit revoked.
I don't know anything about that. I'm just wanted to clarify why you're here, so if we need to address those issues, we can. The rest of it is,
I get it.
I'm happy, but
So the specific issue with the current permitting process is what? Is the requirement for bonds? Is that,
It's broken.
well,
I don't know. I haven't received any red line back. My attorney's not received anything back.
and you
So I don't know what the
June
issue is.
11th was the submission.
The last, data communication was the 20th, right? And that you sent that on.
That was the last communication. I don't know if there's been other communication with engineers. That's what I directed, Mr. Office's attorneys to do, to speak directly with his office, because I'm not part of that review process.
just out of curiosity, would you say our permitting process is too cumbersome or too restrictive as far as industry standards go?
Overly broad. I would compare it to the city of Toledo. I would say that's probably one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. I would compare it, it's very close to the city of Toledo's. I've dealt with Chicago, I've dealt with, thousands of other jurisdictions. And, it's just, it becomes too expensive. You can't do what they're asking for. You've got to make it easy, especially residents, right? I understand the businesses, they've got different budgets, right? They got different IRR, they can afford stuff. But when it comes to residents, you've got to keep that cost down because rural broadband is very expensive to build. Because it's just price per mile, right? And you've got to keep it, affordable. And we're here to help you. We're not here to, make anybody's life miserable here, right? I reside in this county, right? I've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars into this, of the company's money. And we want to do this. We want to help you guys. We're not here to make anybody's life miserable. And again, we do not want to litigate this matter at all. We want to work through this matter in a professional manner. We definitely want to do that. And I made it very clear to my attorneys that whether they want to do what they want to do, I'm the one in charge. And I do not want to litigate this matter. So if we could step up the communication a little bit or do something, I don't know what that would be. That would be wonderful.
Certainly do that.
All right, thank you. And, I appreciate everybody's time and let's move forward. Let's get some broadband for our constituents, right? We're here today. Let's rock and roll.
Very good.
All right. Well,
Thank you,
thanks,
sir.
All right.
Is there anything else for the good of the order? Public comment, questions, concerns? Going once. Going twice.
Move to adjourn.